welcome to everyone for coming in. So we're covering session 3 now of promote Aboriginal and/or Torres Strait Islander cultural safety, unit number CHCDIV002. Okay, before we start, just want to show recognition for the First Nations people. In the spirit of reconciliation, Hattah Institute of Education acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connection to land, sea, and community. We recognise Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the first inhabitants of this nation and the traditional custodians of the land on which we work, live, and study. We express our gratitude for the sharing of this land, our sorrow for the personal, spiritual, and cultural cost of that sharing, and hope that we may move forward together in harmony and in the spirit of healing. We pay our respects to all First Nations people and acknowledge elders past, present, and emerging. Okay. So, like I said, this is session 3. So I've already done the pre-recording of this session, and I'll play that towards the end of today's session. And also you'll get the copy of that recording hopefully by tomorrow with the live recording as well. And also other links and other videos that are part of this unit, which I recommend for you guys to watch in your time. So cultural safety, like we've been discussing, is a critical concept that ensures individuals from all cultural backgrounds feel valued, respected, and included in any setting. So whether it's in the workplace, in the community, or in the broader society, it goes beyond simply being aware of cultural differences. It's about actively creating an environment where these differences are acknowledged and also celebrated. Now, one of the key aspects of cultural safety is recognizing and addressing barriers. These barriers might include systematic issues such as policies or practices that unintentionally exclude certain groups, or personal biases that individuals may not even realize they hold. For example, the way services are delivered might not always align with the cultural needs or expectations of certain communities, which can then create feelings of exclusion and also discomfort. By identifying these challenges, we can begin to dismantle them and also in the same time create a more inclusive environment. Now, cultural safety also requires us to actively create spaces that are inclusive and also respectful. This means designing services and interactions in ways that are mindful of cultural needs and also practices. For example, when working with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities, it's important to consider cultural protocols such as showing respect to elders or understanding the significance of certain traditions and their practices. Ultimately, fostering cultural safety is an ongoing process. It requires continuous self-reflection, education, and collaboration with diverse communities to ensure that everyone feels they belong and can fully participate. By committing to these principles, we not only improve the experience of individuals, but also enhance the overall effectiveness and the sustainability of the service that is provided. Now, I have a question for the group, which is, how can organizations ensure that cultural safety is not just a policy on paper, but is actively practiced in day-to-day operations? People we've got here, 19, okay. I'll ask that question again. How can organizations ensure that cultural safety is not just a policy on paper, but it is actively practiced in day-to-day operations?
Maybe conduct a survey.
Yeah. Conducting a survey, how would that help, you think?
Sorry, I'm just trying to write shit.
Would Rabbit?
Yeah, if you conducted a survey, what it'd do is it'd give you feedback from the actual students. But in addition to conducting a survey, you could also have some form of monitoring where you have someone who goes around and actually monitors what is occurring in the actual groups and basically as an assessor.
Excellent. Thanks, Rabbit. And you would be familiar with that working in government as well. There were a lot of surveys in government agencies where you can gather a lot of information, but it's just up for the organization to implement them changes, I guess. Rihanna?
I'm not sure if this really counts, but like having flags like the Aboriginal and the Torres Strait Islander flag, like in an administration place, for example, like it's sort of unspoken, but it shows that type of respect.
Yes. Perfect example.
Does that count?
Yeah,
Of course it does.
absolutely.
Of course it does. Yeah, there's a great example. A lot of organizations now, especially community-based organizations, do display the Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander, the Aboriginal flag as a sign of respect, and that just shows that shows that they're going beyond just policy and procedure.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Amy?
I'm also like thinking if this one counts as well as what you did before, where you acknowledged the Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander people.
Yeah.
It shows that, you know, you respect that this is their land and this has always been their land. This will always be their land.
Yeah.
Tell me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right. Excellent. That's a perfect example, especially during training sessions, meetings, collaboration sessions with outside agencies. Opening up the session with the acknowledgement to country is a perfect way of showing cultural safety or displaying cultural safety as well. Very good. So other things can include regular training of staff or sessions on cultural safety principles and monitoring their implementation in everyday task. Establish open lines of communication with diverse community groups to receive ongoing feedback and input, like where the surveys come into play. Incorporate cultural safety goals into performance reviews and organizational matrix to ensure accountability, and actively involve culturally diverse individuals in decision-making processes to reflect their needs and also their perspectives. Okay. So when addressing cultural safety, one of the most crucial steps is breaking the untruths or the misconceptions that exist about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities. These untruths often stem from stereotypes which can significantly harm how individuals and communities are perceived and treated. So dispelling stereotypes means challenging oversimplified ideas that do not reflect the diversity and richness of Indigenous cultures. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities are incredibly diverse, like we've been speaking about for the last fortnight. So each community has its own language, traditions, and practices, shaped by its unique environment and history. Understanding this diversity will help us move beyond a one-size-fits-all approach and encourage us to respect and celebrate differences within these communities. Another important aspect is acknowledging the historical and ongoing impacts that have affected these communities. So things like colonization, forced removals, and systematic discrimination have had lasting impacts and effects. which are still evident today in areas like health, education, and employment. Now, recognizing this history is very important to understand the context of these challenges and working towards reconciliation. Breaking the untruths involves things like active listening, learning, and committing to respectful and informed interactions. By doing this, we'll be able to contribute to creating a more inclusive and equitable society where everyone's cultural identity is valued and respected as well. So when it comes to organizations, some ways that they can address misconceptions and also promote better understanding of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander diversity could be things like providing cultural competency training, like we spoke about before, to staff, but focusing on the diversity within Indigenous communities. Another way that they could do this in terms of organizations is collaborating with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander leaders to share authentic stories and perspectives. They could develop educational materials and resources that highlight the unique histories, traditions, and achievements of different Indigenous groups and the individuals, and also create opportunities for dialogue and interaction with Indigenous communities to challenge stereotypes firsthand. Faith, did you have your hand up?
Sorry, no, just fiddling my way through. It's my first time here. Sorry,
You're
just
all right.
listening.
All good.
I've lost you. Are you still there?
I'm
Yeah.
here. All good.
Okay.
Okay, effective partnership. So, effective partnership or partnerships are the foundation of cultural safe and inclusive services. So building trust and mutual respect is the first and most important step in fostering these sort of relationships. Trust is earned through, as you guys will know, being consistent, being respectful, and mutually respecting both parties so everyone feels valued and also heard. So for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities, this often means engaging with their leaders, elders, and members in a meaningful and culturally appropriate way. Engaging Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities goes beyond consultation. It involves actively listening to their voices, like I touched on just a moment ago, also understanding their priorities and including them in decision-making processes. So for so long, Aboriginal people were told how to improve their situation, but since these new studies when it comes to trauma-informed care and all that sort of stuff, we finally come to realization that people will only be motivated to improve their situation if they are in the forefront of that decision-making process. So this kind of engagement helps ensure that programs and services reflect the unique needs and values of the communities that are designed to support. When trust and engagement are prioritized, you will see participation in programs naturally improve. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander families and individuals are more likely to access services and participate in programs if they feel welcomed, if they feel respected, and confident that their cultural values will be upheld.
Yeah.
So in turn, this will contribute to better outcomes for individuals, their families, and also the community. Ultimately, effective partnership requires a commitment to ongoing learning, communication, and collaboration. So by investing time and resources into these relationships, we are then able to create services that are not only inclusive, but also genuinely impactful as well. Okay. Now, to establish effective partnerships, let's just cover this for a bit more. So to establish effective partnerships with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities, Access to the right resources is very important. So one of the most impactful tools is cultural awareness training, like we touched on a few slides ago. So this training helps staff understand the unique histories, the traditions, and challenges faced by Indigenous communities. It equips them with the skills to interact respectfully and appropriately, fostering principles like trust and collaboration. Another essential resource is the involvement of local Indigenous community members. So their input ensures that programs and services are culturally relevant and are aligned with community needs. Engaging community elders and leaders not only enhances the safety when it comes to cultural safety, but also strengthens the connection between service providers and the community. Additionally, leveraging government and health resources will provide valuable information and insights into Indigenous health, education, and also their social issues. So these resources include things like websites, documents, policy documents, and programs designed specifically to support Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. They can guide organisations in tailoring their own approach to meet specific community needs more effectively. Now, when organisations or yourselves as professionals utilize these resources, the organisations and professionals can lay a strong foundation for partnership that are built on respect, understanding, and mutual benefit. It's about combining knowledge, cultural input, and systematic support to create meaningful change. All right, got another question on the screen there. So how can organisations ensure the resources they are both culturally appropriate and effective in building partnerships with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities?
Is that a question? Are you waiting for us to answer?
Yeah, you got the answer for it,
Well, engagement.
Yeah, perfect.
Communicating with the finding the elders,
Yeah,
speaking with them and listening to them.
excellent. So collaborating with Indigenous leaders
Yeah.
and organisations to evaluate the cultural appropriateness of resources.
Yeah.
Finding their community and speaking to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. Going out there proactively and speaking to the community. Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
Having companies like Refocus work with the government to try and find health and housing and things like that is also.
Excellent. Yeah. Excellent. So yeah, well, what is the government good for? Yeah, for situations like this where we want to help community. So reach out to the government or government agencies to find resources or to promote the resources to the community. Excellent.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Entertainment for the kids, games.
Sorry, Rose?
Yeah, they can open places where the children can go, the youth can go and have pleasure like games, football and all that.
Yes. So making it attractive for the young
to attend, come on and join.
Yeah, making them more attractive, making them feel comfortable, having that for them something to do when they're in the community center or whichever organization.
Yeah.
I work with a youth job center, and they've got a section where they've got all the consoles, the PlayStations and the whatever they call them, and they've got a snooker table and all that to make them feel comfortable coming. And when they get bored and writing up their resumes, they can always go to the corner and play some games. So yeah, that's an excellent example.
Release.
Yeah. Amy?
Would advocacy and awareness be one as well? Like spreading awareness or?
Yes. So advocating or using advocacy groups to help people to access resources when it comes to cultural appropriate and effective resources it's a very common practice as well. Yeah, very good.
All right, just
Copying.
making sure.
Sorry?
I was just making sure because I was so confused. I just didn't want to say the wrong thing.
No. There's no wrong answers. No wrong answers. All good. Thank you. All right. Another important one would be when it comes to this sort of thing, and we touched on it before, is involving Indigenous community members in the development and also the review of organizational policies and procedures.
Mhm.
Now, a good example of this is, I've probably told most of you over the time, but I work in youth justice in New South Wales in a correctional facility. And when we do policy development or we make a change to something that involve Aboriginal young people, we usually get elders or their parents involved.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We get consultation. We collaborate with them to see if this is the right thing to do or if they're happy with it, if there's any changes they recommend. Also, when it comes to if a young person is misbehaving for a certain period of time, we'll put them on a behavior plan and we consult with their parents and elders together to develop that plan as well. So things like that are good examples. All right. Okay, we've touched on, I think somebody gave an example of this already, so we won't have to cover this. But I'll have a question on it. So acknowledgement of country. So how do you think organizations can ensure that their acknowledgement of country is meaningful and not just a formality?
I know when I was a teacher aide at school, but whether whatever meeting, it didn't matter whether it was the students, the staff, just the department, it didn't matter. It was always priority one was to do the acknowledgement of country before the start of every meeting. And everybody was up front, looked interested and were, quite, yep, this is what we've got to do. And it was done, didn't matter. So I think that's a really important thing to do. Yeah.
So the key thing there is being consistent. So if you're always doing it before meetings and you're consistent with it, that shows respect.
And I don't think anybody sort of rolled their eyes and sort of said, oh God, here we go again type thing. It was really honest and true blue type thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So when we started doing it, it was probably about 5 years ago, memory. There was a lot of rolling the eyes when we were doing it in meetings. But over time, that stigma goes away and people expect it to happen now.
Yeah.
So if someone tries to start a meeting without doing it, someone will say, oh, wait, you got to do the acknowledgement first.
Yeah, yeah, for
So
sure.
it's sort of part of the furniture now when it comes to meetings.
Yeah.
And is that through education, like the importance of the acknowledgement and what was I trying to say? Yeah, understanding where it's coming from.
Yeah, so including this sort of stuff in staff training will show the importance of acknowledgement of country and its role, especially
not just words.
Yeah, especially in the role of reconciliation.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Matthew?
Would you confirm that the information that you are advocating for is correct by speaking to local elders or communities, like you say, organizations, to ensure that you are factually correct and not just being make it look like that you're actually genuinely interested in cultural safety?
Yes,
rather
definitely.
than sort of just
Of course. Yeah, reaching out to the community, making sure you're recognizing the correct country as well. So, for example, I'm in Western Sydney, so this is the direct country. So, if you're right, I should be doing the speaking to elders or doing research to find out that I'm actually recognizing the right people before I'm doing so. Yeah. Amy?
Just showing, like, not only that, it's just showing that you're engaging and you're actually like interested in what they're having to say and not just doing it because you have to. You're
Yeah.
going to do it because you want to. And that way, like, regardless if you're teaching at a school or if you're in a meeting, you can be able to like bring that information back to those people and be like, okay, this is what I learned, and this is how we're going to respect their lands. Like, for example, as I said before, when you did the acknowledgement of country, you didn't do it because you had to do it. You did it because you wanted to show respect that this is their land, and this is the land that they'll always have.
Absolutely.
Yes, perfect. So you're correct. So how would you explain it to new people to the organization who don't have that much knowledge about cultural safety or the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people when it comes to, and while we do acknowledgement to country, how would you explain it to them? What would you say to them when we say this is the reason why we're doing it?
Just telling them that this isn't our land. This land was, the Indigenous people land, and we're just here to show respect to their land.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm wording it right. Like maybe.
Yeah, you're perfect. You'll start off by explaining that, this is the traditional land of the First Nations people, the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Reason why we show recognition is because of all the hardships they've gone through since the first white settlement in Australia and all the historic tragedies that they've gone through. So this is our way of showing them respect and acknowledgement. And you can go further with that as well by doing more training about the history, the culture, and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are
Oh,
right when you talk of the history. At least every country has a history, so we are happy to know the history of this country as well. So even if you didn't know much, at least by listening to that, then you know, oh, this is the history. This is how Australia started, and the land I'm in now.
That's right. That's correct. Yeah. So it's all about knowing the history, and there's also stigma with non-Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander people when it comes to acknowledgement of country and history. It's like people take it as an attack on European settlers. It's not about that. It's about acknowledging what happened in history, and for us all to move forward together in harmony, and also, making the necessary steps to improve the living standards of our First Nations people as well. Rihanna?
Can you remind me what the original question was?
Yeah, yes. So how can organizations ensure their acknowledgement of country is meaningful and not just a formality?
Yeah, I don't know if this is necessary, but like getting an Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander person to do the acknowledgement of country,
Yeah,
or at least a portion of it.
no, you're right. So I'm pretty sure this is policy with a lot of organizations. If there is a individual who identifies as an Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander person, they are to do the acknowledgement of country. So yes, excellent point. Yoftahe?
By using a map according where we live, by hanging a map on the office, so they know they're understood.
Yes.
Yeah, nations map.
Yes, there is a map. Good point, Yoftahe. There is a map that will show you all the First Nations countries and mobs in Australia. Well, it's a very interesting map, but that's an excellent idea. Yeah. Let's go with I think Rabbit. Yep.
Yeah, with like I've been to a lot of things where Welcome to Country's been done, but I know within our organisation, we would deliberately look at inviting certain people to do it because those people would actually in the Welcome to Country would educate the people there about what the actual ceremony is about. And I've been to some where like it was just like a smoking type thing and no one learned anything, similar to, you know, if you listen to different renditions of a song, some are better than others. And I think that if you can identify the locals that really do hit the mark, that's where education can be easily passed on to the people present.
Excellent. Thank you, Rabbit. Amy, did you have your hand up as well?
Yeah, I just wanted to add one more thing. Also, like, not using slangs around them, like cutting the word, like calling them abos or, you know, offensive words or stuff like that. Just call them Indigenous people, because not a lot of people might not understand that, you know, calling them that is offensive. But if you educate them and saying that, oh, this is the correct term you're supposed to be using when you're addressing Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people.
Excellent. Yes, very good point. Yeah, I still hear terms here and there, not necessarily that one that you just mentioned, but there are still some that people are unaware that it could be a bit of offensive. All right. Thanks, guys. Let's move on to cultural safety strategies and policies. So developing and implementing cultural safety strategies and policies, as you would imagine, is very important for fostering things like inclusive environments and also respect within the organization. So a key aspect of these strategies is ensuring they are regularly reviewed and also updated. Cultural safety is not a static concept, so it evolves as the community and the organization grow. And as new challenges and opportunities arise also. So regular evaluation allows organizations to stay aligned with the needs of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Again, involving Aboriginal staff and community members in the development and review of these strategies is critical. So their insights and their lived experiences ensure that the policies are not only culturally appropriate, but also effective in addressing the specific needs of the community. Their participation also signals an organization's commitment to genuine engagement and also collaboration. Aligning these strategies with cultural expectations and needs is another fundamental aspect. So this means understanding and respecting the traditions, the values, and the protocols of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities. Now, for example, creating spaces that reflect cultural significance, incorporating traditional practices into services, or adapting service delivery to respect community protocols are always to align with these sort of expectations. Cultural safety policies should be a living document. So tools that guide daily operations, influence interactions, and ensure that every individual feels valued and also respected. Now, by embedding cultural safety into entry level of the organization, we move closer to achieving equity and reconciliation. Okay. Now, delivering cultural safe services, again, is about creating environments and practices that recognize and honor unique cultural needs. The needs of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. So one powerful way to achieve this is by incorporating cultural elements such as art, music, storytelling, and a lot of other things into the service. Now, these elements are not just an expression of culture. They are deeply connected into things like identity and also healing. So, for example, using art in therapy sessions or incorporating traditional music into community events can foster a sense of belonging and respect. Understanding the impact of history on Indigenous health is another critical component. So the legacy of things like colonization, dispossession, systematic discrimination, as you would imagine, would have left a lasting effect on the physical, emotional, and social well-being of many Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and their communities. So it's important that we acknowledge the history, as it will help service providers approach their work in a more empathetic way and also give them a deeper understanding of the challenges faced by these communities. Providing culturally appropriate health services is essential to building trust and also encouraging participation. So this involves not only adapting service to align with cultural practice and preferences, but also ensuring that the delivery of care respects their traditions and values. For instance, offering flexible appointment times to accommodate family commitments or creating spaces that reflect cultural significance can make a significant difference in the accessibility and the effectiveness of the service that is trying to be that are people trying to provide. Now, ultimately, cultural safe services are about building connection. Again, it's important for fostering trust and also empowering communities to feel supported and respected in every interaction. It's a holistic approach that benefits both the individual and the broader community. Okay, self-determination. So, self-determination is one of the fundamental principles that acknowledge the rights of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities to make decisions about their own lives, their governance, and their future. It represents a shift in power, transferring decision-making from external authorities to Indigenous communities themselves. This is not about a separation, but it's more about empowering communities to address their unique social, cultural, and economic needs on their terms. Now, during this qualification, some of you would have, some of you probably haven't covered it. Things like trauma-informed care. So trauma-informed care, one of the most important principles when it comes to trauma-informed care is the power of choice, things like independence, empowering the client, things like that. And the reason why these principles are so important is because over time, psychologists, doctors, researchers, and you guys will do this research in the unit, or you've probably already done it. They've come to realization after all these studies that the only way people can sustain good health and make positive changes in their lives if they have the power to make their own decisions and be part of the rehabilitation process, because that motivates them and that empowers them to get involved in their lives, in their journey. Now, recognizing the right of self-governance means acknowledging Indigenous people as the first people of this land and respecting their autonomy. It's about understanding that they are in the best position to identify the challenges they face and develop cultural appropriate solutions. Self-governance includes creating policies, running programs, and leading initiatives that reflect the values and traditions. Supporting Indigenous-led initiatives is another crucial aspect when it comes to self-determination. So when Indigenous communities take the lead in developing and implementing programs, it's not only empowers them, but also leads to more effective and sustainable outcomes. A good example of this could be, when you're looking for jobs online, you'll see identified positions in certain agencies and certain organizations. Now, one that's in my organization is we've got identified mentors and caseworkers that work with Aboriginal young people with programs, helps them out with their casework, helps them with their living situation, court outcomes, all sorts of things. And they get more involved and are more interactive because the person that's helping them is Aboriginal. So they can relate on a cultural level as well. So it's it's much easier for the young people to connect with people who come from the same cultural background as to them. Ultimately, self-determination fosters a sense of ownership, pride, and accountability within the community. It's about building partnerships based on trust, again, respect and equality, while ensuring that Indigenous voices are at the forefront of the decision-making. So supporting self-determination is a step towards reconciliation and achieving equity for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Okay, effective communication. Now, this effective communication is the cornerstone of building trust and fostering positive relationships with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. However, achieving this requires an understanding of linguistic and cultural differences and a commitment to adapting our communication styles. Checking for understanding is a very important step in ensuring clear communication. It's important to avoid making assumptions about what has been understood. Instead, you should be doing things like using open-ended questions or asks for clarification to confirm that the message that was intended has been received. So, for example, instead of asking, do you understand, you could say, can you tell me how you see this working for you? Now, this approach encourages dialogue and minimizes miscommunication as well. Sometimes using interpreters may be necessary as well. So many Indigenous Australians speak English as a second or third language, and some may feel more comfortable expressing themselves in their first language. When engaging interpreters, it's essential to choose individuals who are culturally competent and who understand the context of the conversation. Now, this ensures that both parties feel respected and that the information shared is accurate. The final thing I want to mention is being aware of cultural communication norms. So some Aboriginal communities value silence, for example, as a way of processing information or showing respect. Whereas in mainstream cultures, silence may be interpreted as discomfort or, a sign that you're ignoring or you're showing disrespect towards the other person. So also things like gestures, eye contact, and other non-verbal cues will have or may have different meanings depending on the culture. So it's important to be mindful of these differences, which will help to create a culturally safe and respectful environment. Now, I've got an example of this. Young Aboriginal people, when they are being spoken to, especially when they are being addressed for misbehavior or challenging behavior, and if they have respect for you, they usually look straight to the ground. They don't show you any of this eye contact if you are older. I had a youth officer that was fairly new to the role and obviously didn't know all this stuff. And he's addressing the young person, and the young person was looking straight to the ground, who was Aboriginal. And the worker thought this was a sign of disrespect and that he wasn't listening to him. So obviously got annoyed. He's started raising his voice, and the situation wasn't getting any better. So obviously myself and someone else intervened and we took over the situation. And after explaining to the youth officer that this is the reason why he was looking at the ground, he, went back and spoke to the young person, apologized for how he reacted. So the lesson here is education and taking time to understand and know about different cultures and about their communication norms.
Mm.
So the question I have is, what specific communication strategies can be employed to respect cultural differences and ensure mutual understanding?
Study up on how they communicate with each other, and don't go in there saying things without knowing what you're talking about. Be respectful. Let them do the talking and you do the listening.
Excellent. Mercy?
I think that to add on to what Tony just said is understanding that not all Aboriginals speak the same language, not assuming that they all speak the same language, or say when you get an interpreter or something, don't just look for any Aboriginal and expect them to speak the same language.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. Mel?
I think working with kids, they can be a lot more flexible than adults. You can quite often just say to them and be very honest with them and be like, hey, look, if I upset you in any way or if you are offended in any way, please let me know. And I find that goes over really well with a lot of kids. And I've learned a lot from kids being like, oh, dude, no, don't do that. Like, it's just being that open and honest with them and saying, look, I don't know everything. Please help me learn as we're talking. And yeah, I think I've learned more from the kids themselves than I have from reading books and all that kind of stuff. It's been on the ground and listening to them.
Excellent.
I just use the excuse that I'm old. Don't worry about
yeah. Yeah, they tend to laugh at it.
All right. Rihanna?
I also think it's important to not overthink it when you are speaking to an Aboriginal kid, because if you overthink while you are like mid-conversation, you're going to come off like as if you're overdoing it. Like if you try to use too much of their slang or if you're worrying about like what to say, I think if you want to learn more, like you should just be open-minded and ask and just be curious.
Yeah. Are
kind of
you
thing.
a youth worker at the moment, Rihanna?
No.
Well,
I just got out of high school.
Yeah, so what you just mentioned is probably one of the key things a youth worker can do is not to overdo it. Don't overplay. Don't try to fit in too much. Just be yourself.
I found that working with the autistic kids too. Don't mamby-pamby them too much. Don't sort of like, oh, poor thing, too much, because then they're like, what?
Yeah, don't infantilize them.
Yeah.
So it's important to be genuine, be
Yeah.
yourself. But by doing that, obviously showing empathy and an interest in someone else's culture as well.
Because kids can look straight through you.
Yeah. That's right. Amy?
Also, tone. Be careful with your tone, because you don't want to come off like you're overpowering them. You also don't want to come off like, you're weak in a sense, if you know what I mean. Like, you don't want to like let them take advantage of you. Just set that perfect tone where you both can have a mutual understanding and respect for each other. Because when it comes to disagreements, obviously youths, they're obviously going to have a lot of disagreements. But as long as you give them like that perfect tone and don't come off too strong, you can have that relationship with them. Because it's not just a youth worker and a youth type of relationship you want to build with them. You want to create a bond with them as well.
Excellent. Yeah, so it's about building rapport with the client or with the young person. One thing that was taught to me when many years ago when I started in my job was, which I now teach other youth workers in, is to treat young people, not only Aboriginal people, all people, clients like a mirror. So if you raise your voice and you've got this funny face and you're looking at the mirror, you're going to see that same reflection back.
Exactly.
So if you treat the young person calmly, with respect, with open hands, with eye contact, and you speak to them appropriately, and that is usually the reflection that you'll get back from the young person. But if you're angry,
Yeah.
aggressive, and you're raising your voice, they're not going to want the bar of you. They're gonna give you the same energy back. So it's very
Plus,
important.
it's going to be harder for them to communicate anything with you if you
Yeah.
keep raising your voice at them or come off overpowering.
Yeah. So it's very important that we display pro-social learning, pro-social modeling to the young person, and lead by example, and teach them how we should be communicating with one another.
Yeah, it's going to give them courage, to respond to other people.
Mm.
Be aware of the body language as well, exactly what you were saying. But for your body language, simple things like crossing your arms in front of you, which is for me a very much a comfort thing. I've had to learn how to stop that because that can be very abrasive to kids. You're shutting yourself off from them. So it's just being aware of how your everything basically when you're dealing with a kid, from your face to your body to your voice, just having that awareness that you're being respectful in all kinds of way. And when you say mirroring them, sometimes reading them as well. If they're not doing well with your eye contact, then reducing the eye contact. If they seem uncomfortable, backing off a little bit, just working with the kid. And I mean, they're all so different. So you can't really say this works for all kids. It's sort of kid by kid.
Excellent. Mercy?
I think another thing is, I don't know if I will word this right, but not coming off as a know-it-all.
Mm.
Although we are learning about the culture and we learn a lot of stuff, I think from being from seeing a youth worker when I was younger, I'd try and talk about certain stuff that I knew about my culture, and I'd get cut off because that youth worker knew about it as well. And I just kind of stepped back and didn't want to open up and talk about what I know because I just think I'm repeating information again. So I think listening and taking.
No. Go on.
Sorry, I don't know where I went to.
Oh, there you are.
But I think being open to learning things twice, if that's the way to say it, learning it here in class and then learning from our clients. And sometimes we can learn things that we didn't learn in class from our clients. And so, yeah, I think just being open to learning from our younger people as well is what I'm trying to say.
Very good. Yeah, perfect. Important not to cut them off when they're talking and when they're trying to share their knowledge. Sometimes I speak to young people who are speaking about something that I know are completely, they have no idea what they're talking about. But I'll just sit there and pretend, no, really, is that how it is? Okay, I'll look into that. Just giving them that space to talk and, communicate with me, giving them confidence as well. Even though I know the information they're providing is inaccurate, but just, not bursting their bubble and embarrassing them in front of other people. It's very important. Jack?
Mel took the words straight out of my mouth earlier, which was basically mimicking what the client is also doing. So if they're not showing eye contact, it might be a sign that they are uncomfortable with said eye contact.
Yeah.
And just paying attention to again, mimic their behaviors when need be. Also, introspection and self-examination is one of the most important things as social workers to do, and be able to take accountability when sometimes they may get it wrong, or they might not be as educated on a culture or a specific topic as they may think they are, and being able to take that accountability and self-evaluate and work forward through that.
Excellent. That mimicking thing is correct, but I've got a funny story about that. There was a young person, unfortunately, he was on my unit in youth justice for a long time, so he probably knew the rules and the way youth officers operate better than some youth officers. So I was about there for about 5 years, and there was a new youth officer who came into it. He was training it to become a youth officer, and he was talking to this young person, and he's doing things like mimicking and all that sort of stuff. But the problem was that the young person knew exactly what he was doing. So he just called him out. He goes, "I know what you're fucking doing, mate. Can you please stop? I know what you're trying to do."
You've got your whiskers, mate.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. But yeah, by saying that, yeah, mimicking is copying the other person's body language. You know, if they got their hands open, or if they're going like this, you know, not doing it at the same time, but following their body cues is very effective in building rapport as well. Rabbit?
Yeah, I think one of the most important things to remember when communicating with anyone is that if you expect respect, then you've got to show respect, and you treat the other person the way you want them to treat you. You talk to them the way you want them to talk to you. I know that I've been in a different system, the big boys, not little boys, and you know I've had inmates come up to me that have been absolutely, obviously they're upset. They come up and they'll absolutely abuse you and swear at you and tell you they're going to do all these sort of things. And my way of dealing with that in a lot of cases would be, look, I understand you're upset, but I need you to go away, just calm down a little bit. And when you come back and you talk to me the way I'm talking to you, we can have a chat about what your problem is. Because whilst you're talking to me like that, I'm not listening. So please just go for a little walk, come back. It's not about allowing the person to continue to be angry, but it's about acknowledging that you understand something's got him upset, but his behavior is not acceptable at the moment, and I won't communicate with you unless you change the way you're behaving at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. So by staying calm during that situation, by not elevating your emotions to the young person's level, like Rabbit was saying, and breaking it down for them, explain to them what's happening at the moment. Look, you know, you're obviously upset. I can see that you're distressed, but this is not the way to resolve this. And like Rabbit did there, you know, why don't you just go back, calm down, think about what you want to talk to me about, and come back and we'll talk about it then when you're more settled. So breaking it down and giving them steps to take when they're at that level is an excellent way in dealing with conflicts like that as well. So thanks for that, Rabbit. All right. I think we've got a bit of time. So what I'll do is we'll go straight to this. The first one. Yeah. Okay. So we'll do this case study, or you guys will do this case study, and I'll go away for about 10 minutes. And you guys can discuss it as a group. So I'll just read it out for you. So a community health service in a rural area has been providing programs such as free health checkups, immunization, chronic disease management. Despite these offerings, the services struggle to engage local Aboriginal families, with participation rates remaining consistently low. After some investigation, it is revealed that the health service lacks cultural awareness among its staff. None of the team members have received cultural competency training, and there are no Aboriginal staff employed to bridge the gap between the clinic and the local community. Additionally, the physical space of the clinic has no visible acknowledgement of Aboriginal culture, such as artwork, signage in local areas, local language, or symbols that represent the local traditional custodians. Members of the Aboriginal community has expressed hesitations about attending the clinic, citing past experiences where they felt judged, misunderstood, or unwelcome. They have also shared that the service is rigid, appointment schedules conflict with their family and community responsibilities, making it difficult to access care. Questions are, what strategies can improve engagement? And the other one is, how can staff create a culturally safe environment? I'll give you guys 10 minutes and I'll come back and then we'll go through it then.
Yeah. With this, you guys, one of the first things I'd do would be to actually arrange a visit to one of the local communities so that people could get an understanding of
What you're about,
this is where these people end, even to the point of possibly going and talking to some of the elders in that community. And rather than have the clinic where you are, take the clinic to the actual community, you know, if it's possible.
Yeah.
You could have basic healthcare travel out and then you can sort of triage from there. Like they've done everything wrong in this particular case study, haven't they?
Just like
they kind of need a whole review, I reckon.
I mean, the actual clinic is just probably so sterile, you know, and white and nothing sort of comfy cozy. So, you know.
So would you say do like a mobile health service and go door to door to each like family and just offer them like health service and just at least be able to engage and communicate with them, so that way it'll give the other community members like, you know, that bit of, you know, that bit of comfort that, okay, maybe this place isn't so bad. Forgive me if I'm wrong here.
No. Usually in a community, you'll find that there are the more dominant families and the less dominant families. And if you can get the support of the more dominant families and having them come along to events like, you know, checkups and that, then you'll find that a lot of the rest think, oh, well, if they're going and doing it, it can't be that bad.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Would you also have like a like an advocate with you if you're going to go door to door, just a bunch of doctors and stuff rocking up at your door?
You'd have to have an Aboriginal elder or someone within who's respected within the community. Yeah.
Yeah, well, they've even got that in there that's wrong, isn't it? That they have no Aboriginal staff whatsoever. You know, come on.
Yeah. Yeah, and that in itself, there's a huge distrust of people outside of their community. Of course, they're not going to go into this, you know, horrible clinic where they're not respected. There's nothing that shares their beliefs or makes them feel welcome in any way.
Especially with the trauma that they've gone through, it's going to be definitely hard for them to trust anyone that's not Aboriginal.
Yeah.
So for them to open a clinic without actually involving the community, of course it's not going to go anywhere because there's no one in the community that's going to be like, you can come through, it's safe, like, you know, you don't have to worry about any, you know, any sort of discrimination. But if it's just a one specific type of race there, they're going to be like, okay, well, who's to say they're not going to hurt us, or who's to say they're not going to harm us or anything?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I know that where I come from, on NAIDOC Day, they actually have a significant type of an event up at our local showground where they have our local footy team, which is St. George, come along and they run clinics for the kids and give out footballs and that. And then they'll have all of the organisations, including community health there. They have Indigenous singers, they have Indigenous art, they have Indigenous cooking, a lot of government services that provide support to the Indigenous population. And that's an area where, and again, as everyone said, I mean, I can't believe that there aren't Indigenous staff amongst the health service. Like, I don't get it, because they're actually dedicated positions.
Yeah.
Well, it even
The
says
scary
that
thing
there's
is this
no
probably
signage.
happens.
Sorry, my bad.
Sorry, no, no, we spoke at the same time. You go.
It even says in that first paragraph that there's no signage in local languages or symbols that even represent the traditional custodian. So having signs in their languages and maybe even the flags or symbols and that might make them more comfortable rather than because some might not be able to read English.
Yeah, exactly. Including an interpreter would be important.
Yeah.
Hey, Rihanna, did you want to say something? Yeah.
Yeah. I was just gonna say to address the lack of cultural awareness amongst the staff, that something like a strategy that they could do would be to bring in someone from the local Aboriginal community, like an elder, and sort of just maybe address concerns directly and then try to I'm not really sure how you could sum up an entire culture in a single chat, but just sort of try and bring some sort of awareness. Maybe it's a few sessions
Yeah.
just to teach them.
Excellent. Thank you. Faith?
Come in. Stand up on a bus again. Why don't you just grab a seat? There's no seat.
Faith, did you want to say something?
You know, the new dish, chicken meatballs with also. Yeah.
You're just on mute, Faith. You just got to unmute yourself. Wait, let me ask you to unmute. Oh, Mercy?
I think a really important thing in this case study is they have no Aboriginal staff, and I think for one that's their first huge mistake, because personally I'm Samoan, and for example a lot of my culture are over the BMI. We're considered obese, and when I go to the doctors, I personally don't want to speak to anybody who doesn't understand that we're not obese. We're not, sorry, I don't know how to explain it. I think
I understand it.
the importance is having somebody that they feel comfortable with talking about certain illnesses, diseases, or something like that. They have to be able to talk to somebody that can relate rather than somebody who has never experienced it, seen it, or learned about it, and know how to respectfully consult them in certain ways. So I think Aboriginal staff definitely should be in this clinic. Otherwise, then I don't think members of the Aboriginal community are going to feel safe and getting checked for specific things.
Yeah.
I don't know if I worded that right, but yeah.
No, you explained it really well. Thank you. Amy?
One of their biggest mistakes before they even chose to open this clinic, I think they should have at least consulted the community first and at least let them know that, yes, we're going to open a free clinic in your community, or at least talk to the elders to see what their head's at. Because if you're going to open a clinic and no one's going, how's it going to get anywhere?
Excellent. All right. Good work, guys. I listened to all that discussion. Very, very well done. We don't need to cover. One thing that came to my mind, which baffles me every time I drive past, is the bottle shops, in my local area, or the BWS or whatever they're called. They display Aboriginal art in their shops now, which might be in their minds is respecting Aboriginal people, but as we all know, alcohol has done a lot of damage to Aboriginal people and Torres Strait Islander people.
That's just
For them to promote Aboriginal arts is just, to me, crazy. But anyway, I just wanted to share that. Rabbit?
Yeah, looking at the actual discussion questions, what strategies can improve engagement. I think that the most important strategy that can improve engagement in this situation is to actually create that dedicated Aboriginal health services position within that clinic, then actually have that person create the safe space and then advertise that through the local Indigenous population by having that person go out and meet people and let them know that they're there, so that they, and it's not just a community health service, it's, you know, it's a community health service that actually has a tailored person that's specifically there to assist Indigenous people.
Yeah, excellent. So this is a case study just to get you guys' mind rolling. But as you guys will know, a lot of health services, especially government health services, have identified Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander staff there who specify in cultural awareness and that sort of stuff. But you're right, yeah. For this service, yeah, to actively seek out someone who identifies as Aboriginal and who knows about the culture and the struggles when it comes to health is going to be beneficial for this case study, as they'll know how to promote their services more effectively, and they'll do that by getting in contact with elders and community groups to spread the message out to the community about the services that they can offer. All right, we'll have a 10-minute break, guys, and then we'll come back and we'll go through one of the assessments. See you guys then. All right.
Thank you.
All good. Let me just fix this up. All right. So last week I covered with you guys task 2. So now this week I'm just going to look into task 3. I know some of you have completed this, but for the ones who haven't, I'll just go through it now. All right. So
oh, yes.
Yeah, so the instructions here is you are required to complete a report on the culture of the first people of Australia, their cultural safety needs, and strategies to ensure cultural safety in your service. For this, you will need to complete the following: search identity and talk with a person who has a great deal of knowledge about the first peoples of Australia. For example, a local First Nations resident, perhaps someone who you have worked with in the community service setting, a person from a local First Nations organisations, for example, a Aboriginal Cultural Centre, an Aboriginal cooperative, a community worker, a colleague, supervisor, or client, your trainer or assessor. Now, if you absolutely got no one to speak to, you can reach out to me and I can help you out with this. Just email me. I'll just type my email into the chat group, to the chat, and then we'll go from there. .au. I think that's right. 1 sec. Yeah. Okay, so my email address is there on the chat. What format should this task be submitted in? Q&A. I noticed the reference to the API reference style, but this does not appear to have. So yeah, it's just a question and answer. So when you're answering the research report, it will come in these sections. You just got to type in the answers there. And all the references that you've used just goes towards the end here. Wayne?
But won't the references just be the person we interviewed?
It can be, or there might be some questions here we got to do some research as well. But we'll go through it. Yeah.
Got it.
All right. But yeah, in terms of the format, just question and answer, just got to fill in the gaps.
Lovely.
All right, so let's start. Okay, let's start with the first one. So the background. So here, I want you, we want you guys to provide a brief explanation of why this research is important. So you should consider things like understanding and respecting the culture of the first people of Australia, recognizing cultural safety as an important practice in community services, and improving service to ensure they are inclusive and culturally safe for First Nations people. Now, an example could be here is that you could write something like, this research aims to enhance our understanding of the first people of Australia, their cultural identity, major issues that they face, and how to ensure cultural safety in services. By learning from local First Nations people, we can implement appropriate strategies to promote inclusive environments and respect within our workplace. Now, the objectives, it wants at least 3 of them. So one could be, as an example, to develop strategies to promote cultural safety and inclusive environment in service delivery. That could be one objective. Can anyone else think of any others?
Understand why they need to, an understanding of why they need to be there, of what we're trying, of what it is that we're trying to achieve.
Yeah. So you can write one like, yeah, that's on the right track. So to understand their cultural identity, their traditions, and the history of the first people of Australia.
Yeah.
That could be one. Can anyone think of any others?
Loom, I don't know why I've got an echo, sorry.
Yeah, right.
Try and find ways to effectively deliver services that allows people to engage.
Yeah. So to find ways to deliver services, that could be, you can look to identify challenges faced by First Nations individuals, their families, particularly within community services, and why they can't receive services, or why it's difficult for them to receive them services.
Remove obstacles. Oh, what was that?
All good. Sorry, Faith, what was that?
Oh, no, I was just trying to reword what you were saying.
Yeah, no, all
Able
good.
to provide better and what am I thinking? Delivery, and to remove obstacles to the provision of services.
Excellent. Good work. All right, the next part there is, who did you consult with and why did you choose this particular person? Now, again, you've got to identify a knowledgeable individual such as an elder, a worker from an Aboriginal organization, or a community leader, or could be someone who has a lot of experience in community services, or any particular agency that has worked with First Nations people. And then you've got to explain why you chose them. So you can go back and say, their lived experience, their expertise, or role in the community. So this answer is just not, I chose Bob Jane. You've got to explain why you chose him. Yep. Okay, so you would write something like, I consulted with Trevor, for example, a cultural advisor from the local Aboriginal Land Council, as they have extensive knowledge of their traditions, history, and issues that are faced by the First Nations people in that region.
Yeah.
All right, so what is the traditional land of the local area? So we spoke about this a little bit in the beginning, when we spoke about acknowledgement of country. Someone made an excellent point in the beginning. So it's important here, you need to research the Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander nation and language group of the particular region that you are living in. You can check let me just bring it up. There's a website you can check, I'm pretty sure.
This would be,
Yeah, Wayne, there's something wrong with your mic. If you just want to use the chat, I'll try to answer your questions. Sorry, mate. All right, over here. So here you go. There's a map here that can help you out. But if you type it in Google, I'm sure you'll be able to find it as well. This would be answered by the interview, yes.
Yeah.
This would be answered by the interview. Yep. Yep. Yeah. All right. Who are the traditional owners and custodians of this land?
Okay.
So you need to identify the traditional owners based on the research or consultation. So you can talk to Trevor, for example, who has knowledge about working with Aboriginal people and Torres Strait Islander people, but they might not know all the answers. So identify the traditional owners based on research or consultation. So you use the internet to you can find the information there. Some regions will have multiple traditional custodians due to shared land use as well. So mention that in your answer as well. Matthew?
Are we able to reference back to the local area? Is that what we're supposed to be doing? So what is the traditional land of the local area? Are we, for the following questions, are we referencing back to our local area or just Australia in general?
Your local area, so your local nation.
Yep, okay.
So,
Right.
for example, in Western Sydney,
Mhm.
part of Western Sydney falls under the direct land.
Mhm.
So there's, yeah, specific
Yep, okay.
land.
No worries.
I think I fixed the mic issue.
Oh,
I
perfect.
joined the meeting twice.
Excellent. Did you have a question?
No, my point was simply that I suspect that these questions will be answered by the interviewee. But is that the aim of this task, to get that first-hand knowledge from?
Yes, you can. The point of this thing is to do your own research and to also do some consultation as well with someone who has experience in working with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. There are some questions here that they will not be able to answer because they won't have the knowledge. So you'll have to do your own research as well. Yeah. There's another Wayne. Did you have a question, Wayne?
I may have multiple personalities. I think it's just the one of me.
All right. Mel?
Hey, I work quite a distance away, nearly an hour away. So obviously there's most likely going to be a difference in the communities around me. Is it okay to base it on like where I work? That's where I work with an elder who would be perfect for this. Is it okay to base it sort of in that area, or do you have to do where you're based?
Whatever is easier for you.
Okay, cool.
Blake?
Well, my question's similar to Mel's. Regarding the question of what is the history of the First Nations people of the local area, I live in Gympie, and the person I'll probably be talking to is Noosa. So that's like the Cubby Cubby and Gubby Gubby. Would I put my area or the person I'm interviewing's area?
You can do your area and do your own research and
Yeah.
talk about and answer that question based on your area, or you can refer to the nation that's associated to Noosa.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But just specify that when you're answering.
Yeah, and would I have to include the language that they speak as well, or just say that I interviewed Robbie Peters, who's part of the Gubby Gubby tribe?
Yeah. I don't think it's actually I would, yeah. So when it comes to the traditional land of the local area, I would add the language group as well of that region. Yeah.
Yeah, and where it says, are there differences between First Nation communities? Would that be of where I'm living and where the difference between my community and the Noosa one?
let me see. Are there differences between First Nations communities?
Or is that just
That's just in general. So,
okay?
just
Yeah.
generally speaking, are there differences between a nation in New South Wales and a nation in Queensland?
Yeah, so some like the languages are completely different.
Yeah. And
Okay.
also a lot of the nations, you'll probably be aware of this, they got a lot of different slang as well in certain areas, and they use different terms.
Yeah.
Rabbit?
Yeah, mine's a similar sort of question, Kane. Because I live in a caravan and I travel, I'm in one place today. In a week from now, I'm going to be in a different area, but then in a month from now, I'm going to be in a different area again. So, yeah, and the difference between First Nation communities is really evident when you look at the coastal communities and the inland communities. So that's where there's massive differences.
Yeah. Yeah, so just thanks for that, Rabbit. But yeah, you can choose. So when you're speaking to the person that you chose, you can refer to their local area, or you can refer to your own local area or the local area that you are residing at that moment. It's completely up to you. Wayne?
Slightly unrelated to the topic question. Does anybody on the call know or understand why the Northern Territory Indigenous art style became so synonymous with Aboriginal art versus other art styles from other parts of the country?
Good question.
It came up in one of the earlier assignments, but I wasn't even aware of it before that assignment. But I was just wondering if anyone understood or knew why that particular dot painting style from Northern Territory became so synonymous with Aboriginal art.
My understanding was that's where they've mainly been discovered compared to everywhere else. Would be up in that area, in the caves, and I mean that's probably what's been brought to light more than anywhere else.
Yeah, it might.
I myself haven't heard of really anywhere else.
Yeah, I think their art has a lot to do with their communication, their history, and just their interpretation of things as well. And geographically, so when it comes to art, I think Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, them regions are very similar because I think geographically they've traveled across the coast. But Northern Territory is quite far from them areas, so I'm assuming that's probably one of the reasons. But very good question. I might look into it later on, actually.
Okay.
Very good. All right. Let's go on to. So we've covered what is the traditional. What is the history? No, did we cover that, guys? Which one are we up to? Land. What are traditional owners and custodians? Yeah. So what is the history of the First Nations people of that local area? I think we've covered that. What is the history of First Nations people of the local area? Yeah. Are there differences between different First Nations community? We just spoke about that. So with these answers, so this one here, 1 second. So with the other difference between different First Nations communities, you need to explain the First Nations communities that they are diverse, talk about the diverse languages, traditions, and cultural practices. Differences may be based on geography, history, and tribal customs. So just don't give me a one answer sentence because it won't be enough. You got to explain your answer and provide the reference in the end as well, right there. All right. So an example could be, I would say yes, obviously. Are there differences between the First Nations communities? There is significant difference between them. Each community has its own language, customs, laws, and traditions. For example, some communities in Central Australia may have different cultural protocols compared to those in coastal regions, like Rabbit just shared with us. Additionally, Torres Strait Islander culture is distinct from the Aboriginal culture as well, so that's another difference. Wayne?
My question was already answered. My question was about the art style from Northern Territory.
All good, mate.
Oh, I'll lower my hand, sorry. There you go.
All good.
Thank you.
Yeah, all right. All right. If you wish to acknowledge the First Nations country at the beginning of a meeting, what are the words that you should use? So this is about acknowledge the country. So here I want you to provide an example of an acknowledgement country. So you would say something like, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, or the First Nations people of this land on which we meet today, and then you name the group or the nation. So the Darug people, for example, I pay my respect to elders past, present, and emerging, and extend that respect to all First Nations people here today. Okay. What are the major issues that First Nations children and families face in that region? So generally, obviously some areas it will be worse than others, but generally the key areas are health, education gaps, unemployment, discrimination and systematic racism, intergenerational trauma, lack of cultural safe services, and so on. So you need to talk about this a little bit as well. You need to, but research about the area that you are talking about. So First Nations families in this region face challenges such as limited access to so-and-so, like cultural appropriate healthcare, educational barriers, intergenerational trauma, and so on. You'll be able to find this information if you Google it. I'm sure there will be a government study or a government data on this to show what is lacking in that certain region. All right. Are there suitable and available facilities in the area for local First Nations people to access? What could be done to improve this? So first, you've got to identify the existing services, such as Aboriginal health services, community centres, and so on. And then after that, you've got to suggest some improvements, such as increased funding, culturally trained staff, or additional programs. Okay. What are the three main things that a community facility service needs to include for cultural safety for First Nations people? So this question here would be a question that you research as well. So what are three main things that a community facility needs to include for cultural safety for First Nations people? Can anyone think of any? I think one that comes to my mind is cultural representation. So that could be one. What are the three main things that a community facility needs to include for cultural safety for First Nations people? So I would say cultural representation, but I wouldn't just end it there. I would explain why. Just a brief sentence and to explain why cultural representation is important. Another one would be cultural training. So provide an example on why that would be important. So providing ongoing cultural competence training for staff, for example. Rihanna?
Maybe like cultural involvement. So like participating in events like NAIDOC Week, Reconciliation Week, or just any days.
Excellent. Very good. Matthew?
What about strong and well understood policies against racism? That sort of thing within
Perfect.
our, yep.
Yeah, very good. Okay, let's go on to the next one, which is how could an outside school hours care service partner with a local First Nations community to support cultural awareness? List 3 ways. So you can also use that last example that was used. You could say celebrating First Nations events. So recognizing things like NAIDOC Week, Reconciliation Week, and other significant events as well. That could be one example for this question. So how could an outside rabbit? You just on mute, rabbit.
By having culturally appropriate activities that are actually conducted at the aftercare or the school care partner, rather than based on what Anglo-Saxon, aftercare places are in built-up metropolitan areas, so that you're not just because they're kids, they're not playing in sand pits and what have you. They're doing stuff that's more culturally appropriate for them.
Perfect.
At
Yeah.
their age.
Excellent example. Very good. Rihanna?
Yeah, sort of like if someone from the community came in to support the OSH, like maybe learning the local language,
Yeah.
or like because it's kids that go to OSH, rather than having the full map of Australia that has all the communities and tribes in it, maybe have like their area, so it's more easy for them to understand and sort of comprehend. Because it might, looking at the map, because we had it like when we were 7, looking at the map, it can be really overwhelming, and it sort of deters you from reading every single one and like looking at it, and so maybe
Yeah.
if they just had one that was a bit more accessible to them.
And the history too of that area. Yeah.
So yeah, so involving First Nation elders or might be educators is an excellent initiative. The one that Rabbit gave before was equally good as well. So embedded Indigenous perspectives in activities, very important, and a very good strategy as well. So very good work, guys. All right. So conclusion. This is the end of it. So during your talk, how did you make sure you were culturally appropriate? Notes: if your interview was with a person of non-Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander descent, you should comment on whether you would have varied your style had they been a First Nations person. Okay, so this one you need to reflect on how you ensured cultural appropriateness during your consultation. If your interviewee was not of Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander descent, you need to discuss how you would have approached it differently. So, for example, if I was to speak, if I was to interview someone who was Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander, I would say something like, during our conversation, I made sure that I was respectful, that I listened actively, and I followed cultural protocols such as seeking permission before asking sensitive questions. If I were speaking with an elder, I would have been mindful of their cultural knowledge and taken extra care to follow cultural protocols, something like that. And the references. API Faith. You're just on mute, Faith.
It is. How's that? Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Good. Can we tape the conversation?
Yeah, of course you
Yeah.
can. If you want a reference to it later on, just get permission from the person you're recording. But that's no problem. That's actually a good idea actually for you guys. Very good. Thanks, Faith. All right. API referencing. I'm going to put an example here.
Oh, that was great fun. That was.
So this is an example of an APA reference. All right. I'm going to put one with an author. And that's one that is, so that the first one is from a government website. So generally government websites or organizations won't have an author. So you just got to type in the organization first, the year that article or information was published, the title of what you're reading, and where you found it from. If it's from an author, you type in all the authors here, the year of publication, title, and where the information was from. To this, I would probably add the retrieve from whatever website as well. All right, so that's the end of this assessment. Any questions, guys? Do you guys have any questions about anything to do with role plays, other assessments, or anything?
There's a role play session on Thursday night, is that correct?
Yes, I think there is. Yeah, I think they're going to try to do one every month.
Okay.
From memory, I think Vicky is running that, which is she's our manager. So she knows everything about role plays. She'll answer all your questions.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Role play, are we allowed to do with someone within our household or?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, definitely. So just got to make sure with the role plays you read the instructions, because so if it's a one-on-one role play, if it's you playing the worker and the other person, the client, you can have a family member or a friend or whoever you want playing the other person. Just got to make sure that you're not reading off the script, but the other person can. We don't expect the other person. We're not assessing the other person, so they can read off the script, no problem. But you, please make sure you don't read off a script. Make it as natural as you possibly can make it. You can have some notes in front of you to remind you and prompt you in certain areas, but make sure you maintain eye contact, because what you're displaying is more than what you are saying. It's about active listening, showing empathy, showing your style of communication when talking to someone that is displaying distress. Another important thing is there's going to be some role plays where it's going to be involving 3 or more people. Now, the person being assessed, sometimes I've seen family members play two roles, which is not allowed. So you can't have a friend or a family member playing 2 different roles. The only people that can play 2 or more roles are the trainer or the assessors. So you'll have to reach out to SLO and get in contact with the trainer if you'll find it difficult getting connected with more than one person to help you out with a role play. But I think the best way to go about this is to do it amongst yourselves. Get connected with each other, because you guys know the content, you know what needs to be done. I would get in contact with the learners and try to organize time together to complete the role plays together. That would be my first point of action. That's the first thing I'll be looking to do. Jack?
So I do just want to quickly clarify, we don't have a role play for CHCDIV002, right?
Correct.
Beautiful. Okay, thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Any other questions, guys? No. Very good. All right. So what we'll do is we'll have a 5-minute break. When we come back, I'm going to play you guys the pre-recording. So last week went for about an hour, but this one's only about half an hour. During the pre-recording, or even now, I'm happy if you want to leave and go back and finish some assessments off and watch the pre-recording tomorrow or another day. I'm happy with that as well. Yeah, so this is your time now. If you want to sit back and watch the pre-recording, that's fine. If not, yeah, go back and do whatever you need to do. You might want to spend some more time on other assessments and so on. So I'll see you guys in 5 minutes. Okay. Oh, sorry, before we go, Mercy.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask when I would be able to get information on how to get my blue card from you.
Yeah, so you need to get in contact with SLO.
Yes, hello.
Yeah. Have you finished 50% of your certificate?
No.
Mom,
Okay, so
Mom.
Sorry.
you're right. To be approved, to get your blue card or to be allowed to do work placement, you got to complete 50% of your assessments. So if you're close to that stage, you can get in contact with SLO, or if you just want to know general information about how to obtain a blue card, yeah, just contact SLO.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
All good. Jack, did you have another question?
Sorry, no, that's my mistake.
Yeah, all right. Megan?
Yes, hello. Sorry, just a quick question. With the reflection for this unit or the other assignments, with the part C, it was providing an example of an environment program or service set up in your current or previous workplace. My workplace doesn't really have any programs or any service set up, so it's a bit hard for me to answer.
Is that
Or
task 4?
C. Pardon?
Task 4?
Yes.
All right, let's have a look.
I think I emailed Vicky a couple of days ago, but didn't hear
Which
back.
question? Which one was it here? Can you see it on the screen?
Yeah, the part C. So the
Okay.
go down.
Provide an example of an environment program or service set up in your current previous workplace that is culturally supportive of the first. Okay. So with this, if again, same as the first question, the assessment 3, if you don't know anyone who you can do 2 things. If you don't know anyone that's worked there or worked yourself, one, you can find the workplace online
Yeah.
that does this, or you can reach out to me and I can help you out with this question.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, guys. If there's no more questions, we'll have a 5-minute break and then we'll come back and I'll play that pre-recording. I'll see you guys then. Okay.
Where am I going?
All right, I'm just going to play the pre-recording for this session. It goes for 30 minutes. So yeah, so I'm just going to turn my camera off, play the pre-recording. If you want to leave now and like I said, do your own thing, look at other assessments, that's fine as well. Otherwise, just stay muted while the recording's on, please. And yeah, hope you guys enjoy. Hello everyone, my name is Cheyenne. I'll be going through the pre-recording for unit CHCDIV002, session 3, promote Aboriginal and or Torres Strait Islander cultural safety. Okay, in the spirit of reconciliation, Hattah Institute of Education acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and the connections to land, sea and community. We recognise Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the first inhabitants of the nation and the traditional custodians of the land on which we work, live and study. We express our gratitude for the sharing of this land, our sorrow for the personal, spiritual and cultural costs of that sharing, and hope that we may move forward together in harmony and in the spirit of healing. We pay our respects to all First Nations people and acknowledge elders past, present and emerging. Okay, so welcome to session 3. Let's look at what we'll be covering, what I'll be covering during the pre-recording. So first I'll discuss breaking the untruths of Aboriginal communities today. This involves debunking stereotypes and the misconceptions that persist about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, and exploring the realities of their experiences and also their contributions. Next, we'll explore effective partnerships. So why they are so important and how can we build and sustain them. So strong partnerships are key in creating more impactful, culturally appropriate outcomes. We'll then review the resources available to promote effective partnerships, ensuring you have the tools and knowledge to collaborate with Aboriginal communities and stakeholders effectively. Finally, we'll look at, delivering cultural safe programs that encourage increased participation. These programs must respect cultural protocols and empower Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander individuals and communities. Now that we went through the summary of this session, let's look at historical context and strategies. It's a good time to reflect and integrate what we've learned from session 1 and 2. So first, I want you guys to consider how can we use the information to improve our personal practices. I want you to think about the way we can approach our work with greater cultural awareness and sensitivity. What steps can we take to align our actions with the values of respect, inclusion, and understanding? Second, let's think bigger than that. So how can this information enhance the practice of your agency or organization? So what changes can be made to improve policies? That's what we're going to look at. How can we build stronger relationships with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities and deliver more cultural, safe, effective services? All right, now let's explore the role of community service in supporting Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. First, services that are designed with the mainstream Australian population in mind often fail to meet the specific needs of Australian Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities. So these services may lack the cultural understanding and tailored approaches necessary to effectively support Indigenous people. Secondly, the ideal scenario is to have community services provided by trained and qualified Indigenous professionals. These individuals often bring deep understanding of the cultural context and unique challenges faced by the communities. However, we acknowledge that this isn't always feasible due to resource limitations or workforce availability. This reality highlights the importance of equipping non-Indigenous services and also service providers with the skills, knowledge, and cultural competence needed to bridge the gap. So let's carry on with the other slide. So effective partnerships. So let's look at the importance of developing effective partnerships between staff, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, and their communities. So building these partnerships is very important for ensuring cultural safety within the service. Cultural safety means creating an environment where Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people feel respected, understood, and valued. Secondly, when we focus on developing relationships based on mutual respect and trust, we encourage greater participation from Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander families. This fosters collaboration and ensures that the services provided are culturally appropriate and aligned with the community needs. Our goal is to work together with these communities to create partnership that are built on understanding and a shared commitment to positive outcomes. Building on our previous discussion, let's focus on how effective partnerships must respect and include the unique cultural heritage of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. So services must ensure that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander perspectives are meaningfully included. So this involves consulting community members, listening to their insights, and incorporating their traditions and values into service delivery. Second, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander families often seek a connection with their cultural heritage and their community. It's important that services reflect this in two ways. So first way is the physical environment. So this involves symbols, artworks, or art designs that honor Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander culture. Another one is the social connection. So services should actively create spaces where families feel a sense of belonging and connection, fostering trust and engagement. Acknowledging the custodians of the land is a vital step in promoting cultural safety and respect. One key strategy to include in any cultural safety policy is the creation and implementation of the acknowledgement of country. Similar to what I did in the beginning of the session, or exactly what it was. This acknowledgement should be prominently displayed at the entrance of the service to ensure that it's visible and inclusive. It's also important to incorporate it in other platforms like service websites, newsletters, and official documents and training material as well. By doing this, services will demonstrate respect for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, their history, and their ongoing connection to the land. It's not just a statement, but a meaningful action towards reconciliation and cultural awareness. Developing effective strategies and practices is essential to ensuring a cultural safe work environment. So this involves not only fostering respect and understanding, but also embedding consistent practices across the organization. A key element is the development of cultural safety policy. This policy acts as a guiding framework to promote inclusive and cultural awareness. However, it is not just enough to create this policy. It must be regularly evaluated and reviewed to ensure it remains relevant and effective. Through regular updates, organizations can adapt to changes, address challenges, and continuously improve cultural safety practices, ensuring all employees and community members feel respected and valued. Working with Aboriginal culturally safe services, this is critical in meetings that need for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities. One of the key aspects is to emphasize the inclusion of cultural expression, such as visual art, dance, music, songs, ceremonies, and rituals. Now, these elements are deeply ingrained in the identity and heritage, making them essential in providing cultural sensitive services. Additionally, it is important for services to stay informed about the current health issues affecting Indigenous populations, both in their local areas and across other regions. This includes understanding how historical events such as colonization have impacted and continue to impact Indigenous health today. By integrating these cultural elements and addressing health disparities with cultural awareness, we ensure that the services provided are respectful, relevant, and effective for communities that they support. Okay. To create a culturally safe service or services, it's essential to continually evaluate and refine the strategies we use. This can be done by asking reflective questions such as, are we open during times Aboriginal families can access our services? Accessibility is key to ensure that we meet the needs of the community. Are we welcoming to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander families? Now, we need to consider the first impressions when families enter our services. Does the environment feel inclusive and respectful? Do our resources adequately meet the specific needs of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander families? Reviewing this suitability and availability of resources is a vital step in creating an effective and cultural safe service. By addressing these questions, we can identify areas for improvement and ensure that our services align with expectations and requirements of the communities that we are serving. In promoting effective partnership with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities, it is important to utilise a variety of resources that can enhance the understanding and also collaboration. Cultural awareness and language services are key tools to bridge communication gaps and build mutual respect. Additionally, government health websites provide valuable data on the health and education challenges faced by these communities, offering insight to shape supportive programs and initiatives. The Department of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander policy website and other policies, guidelines, and strategies inform best practice in service delivery. Finally, the Council of Aboriginal Reconciliation is an essential resource that you guys should have a look. So they offer programs and recommendations to foster meaningful reconciliation and improve relationships between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Australians. Okay, like I've mentioned in previous recordings, there are a whole bunch of videos and video links that are attached to each PowerPoint presentation. Unfortunately, we can't play these during our recorded sessions due to copyright infringement laws. If we've got time during our live session, I will play them. Otherwise, the links to them will be sent out to you guys in email. We do recommend that you guys make some time to watch these videos, as you'll get a better understanding of the topic as well, and it'll only further your knowledge about the unit. When building, let's talk about resources to promote partnerships. So when building strong partnerships with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities, leveraging the right resources is very important. First, the Commonwealth Department of Health and Ageing, along with the Office for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Health, provides comprehensive data, policies, and programs aimed at addressing health disparities within these communities. These resources can guide the development of effective and cultural appropriate services. Secondly, Australian Indigenous education resources are available for promoting understanding and fostering inclusive practices. These resources cover various aspects from cultural awareness to practical strategies for engaging Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in education and community programs. Lastly, local Indigenous community members are irreplaceable resources. Their lived experience, cultural knowledge, and insight are critical for creating meaningful connections and ensuring that services are designed and delivered in ways that respect and honour their traditions and values. Collaborating with these members strengthens trust and enhances the cultural safety of the service that is provided. Now, this slide highlights the importance of ongoing cultural safety training provided by specialised services. So these services aim to equip individuals and organisations with the knowledge and skills required to create and maintain a culturally safe environment for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Consultants play a critical role in the process by offering expert advice tailored to the unique needs of each organisation or community. Their insight helps bridge gaps in understanding and foster stronger relationships. Ultimately, the goal of these initiatives is to enhance the quality of service delivery. By doing so, we aim to improve not only the experience of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people interacting with these services, but also the overall effectiveness and inclusiveness of those services. So here it highlights the important components for developing and reviewing cultural safety strategies and policies in an organisation. Now, to create a comprehensive and effective cultural safety, it is important to involve Aboriginal staff or staff members and local Aboriginal communities. Now, when it comes to Aboriginal staff or First Nations people, their lived experiences and perspectives are invaluable in shaping policies that are truly inclusive and reflective of their cultural heritage. All staff as well, so ensuring everyone contributes to and understands the policy fosters a unified and informed workplace culture. And of course, local Aboriginal communities. So open communication and ongoing support with these communities ensures the policy is culturally respectful, relevant, and grounded in authentic engagement. It's important that we do regular evaluation in collaboration with all these stakeholders to help maintain the policy's relevance and also its effectiveness, ensuring cultural safety remains a priority in the organisation. We need to ensure the effectiveness of cultural safety policy. This is important to include measurable outcomes. These agreed outcomes serve as benchmarks to evaluate the success of the strategies implemented. Regular evaluation is a critical component to service deliveries or programs, and curriculums should be reviewed consistently to assess the alignment with the desired cultural safety outcomes. The ongoing process ensures that strategies remain relevant, effective, and capable of meeting the evolving needs of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities. By prioritising review and accountability, we create a workplace that upholds cultural respect and safety for all. Developing effective cultural safety strategies begin with a self-assessment. So this initial step allows the service to identify any barriers accessing services for the local Aboriginal community. It's critical to include all staff members in the self-assessment process. The input not only provides a comprehensive perspective, but also fosters a collective commitment to improving service delivery. Additionally, the question used in this self-assessment can form the foundation for meaningful consultation with community members. This approach ensures that the strategies developed are informed by genuine collaboration and tailored to meet the community's specific needs. To ensure cultural safety strategies are effective and remain relevant, they must be reviewed and evaluated regularly. This process involves the engagement of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, like we discussed, as insights and lived experience are invaluable. The evaluation should actively involve the families also who use the services, along with key community representation such as local elders. This collaboration helps refine the strategies, ensuring they truly address the needs and priorities of the community while fostering trust and mutual respect. Regular reviews of cultural safety strategies are essential to demonstrate a genuine commitment to addressing cultural barriers and critical issues as they arise. So this ongoing process ensures that policies and practices remain effective and relevant. When changes or issues emerge, the relevant policies may need to be adjusted to meet new challenges. It is important to recognize that cultural policies are not static. They are continuous work in progress. This requires open and effective communication with all stakeholders, including staff, community members, and service users, to ensure the strategies remain responsive and impactful. Self-determination is a key principle in promoting autonomy and empowerment for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. It involves transferring decision-making power from government authorities to these communities, allowing them to take control of their own affairs. This shift means fostering programs and resources that enable Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples to rebuild their decision-making capabilities. It's important. It's about creating opportunities for them to shape their futures on their own terms, ensuring their voices are central in every decision that affects their lives. Self-determination represents an ongoing process of choice, ensuring that Indigenous communities are empowered to meet their social, cultural, and economic needs. Importantly, it's not about creating a separate Indigenous state, but rather about fostering the ability for communities to govern and support themselves in ways that reflect their unique identities and priorities. This principle is grounded in the fundamental acknowledgement that Indigenous people are Australia's first people. Recognising this truth is a critical foundation for granting Indigenous communities the rights to self-determination, ensuring their voices are central to decisions that impact their futures. Self-determination encompasses a broad spectrum of actions, ranging from policy formulation to provisions of cultural relevant services. Importantly, this means ensuring that services are delivered by cultural peers or elders, rather than individuals or systems that fall outside of Aboriginal culture. In the early 1970s, Aboriginal people made a pivotal request, the right to administer their own communities. This was a significant milestone as the federal government agreed, albeit with specific conditions. The outcome was the creation of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Commission, or ATSIC, a central body tasked with enabling self-governance and decision-making for Aboriginal communities. The Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities, or ATSIC, the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Commission, or ATSIC, has undergone many transformations and is now integrated under the department known as the Prime Minister and Cabinet. These changes reflect a shifting landscape in how Aboriginal self-determination is administratively supported. In addition, organisations like the National Aboriginal Community Controlled Health Organisation play a critical role in supporting Indigenous autonomy. So this organisation focuses on fostering healthy futures for Indigenous communities and advocates for the unique need of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. Importantly, this organisation, the National Aboriginal Community Controlled Health Organisation, highlights that mainstream services often fail to meet these specific cultural and community needs, underscoring the importance of self-governance and tailored services. Across Australia, various projects and programs are actively working to preserve the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander languages still spoken today. Many of these efforts also aim to revive languages that have been lost, ensuring that these vital elements of cultural heritage are not forgotten. For some Indigenous people, the traditional language remains alive and continues to be a significant part of their identity. For these communities, English often serves as a second language, emphasizing the importance of cultural sensitive communication and literacy support. Language differences can lead to significant communication challenges when engaging with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. In these instances, it is often essential to use an interpreter to bridge the gaps and ensure accurate understanding. Elders or family members are sometimes asked to fulfill these roles as they bring cultural context to the conversation. However, in cases where more technical or formal interpretation is required, trained and qualified interpreters may be engaged to ensure effective communication. Effective communication is key when engaging with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. You need to take the time to build rapport, as this establishes trust and respect. Start by introducing yourself in a warm and friendly manner. Ask about the country they are from. This will show genuine interest and respect for the connection to land and community. Share stories of interest to create mutual understanding and always show respect in your interactions. Finally, assess whether there is a need for a translator to ensure clear and effective communication, particularly when language barriers exist. Clear and respectful communication is essential when engaging with all people, but especially with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as well. You need to begin by actively listening, so this will show respect and foster trust. You need to avoid using complex or unfamiliar words and explain the purpose behind any question you need to ask to maintain transparency. You need to check for understanding regularly, as this ensures the message has been effectively communicated. When appropriate, use diagrams or images to clarify concepts visually. Always be mindful of non-verbal communication such as facial expressions and body language, as they can convey unintended messages. Remember that direct eye contact may not always be appropriate in some cultures, so be sensitive to this. Finally, understand that silence is often valued. It can signify thoughtfulness or respect, so embrace it rather than rushing to fill it. Building strong relationships, once again, with the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities require an understanding of cultural sensitiveness, especially around the concept of shame. For many Indigenous individuals, sharing personal or private information can evoke deeply felt embarrassment or discomfort, particularly if breaches of confidentiality occur. It is important to respect their feelings by ensuring privacy and demonstrating cultural sensitivity. To foster trust, take the time to engage with local communities, learn commonly accepted words, and understand the protocols specific to the area. This foundation of respect and cultural awareness will enhance communication and build meaningful relationships. In Western culture, time is often strictly structured, with a strong emphasis on meeting deadlines and adhering to schedules. However, in Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures, time is perceived differently, with greater value placed on family responsibilities and community relationships. When engaging with Indigenous communities, it's important to consider this cultural perspective, offering flexible consultation times, and also taking the necessary time to explain processes without rushing fosters better communication and mutual understanding. Adapting to these cultural nuances will help build stronger, more respectful relationships. Okay, let's recap today's session. So we explored the untruths or misconceptions surrounding Aboriginal communities and the importance of addressing these to promote understanding and inclusive environments. We discussed the significance of building effective partnerships and resources available to support these initiatives. We highlighted the need for cultural safe programs that encourage participation and engagement from Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. We delved into language and literacy as vital components in preserving Indigenous cultures and improving communication. Finally, we examined the role of community services in delivering cultural appropriate support and care. These topics are integral to fostering a respectful, inclusive environment for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and their communities. Further to this, we looked at self-determination as well. We looked at cultural safe policies and strategies, the importance of creating, evaluating, and maintaining policies that ensure cultural safety within services. We looked at the importance of acknowledging of country and cultural events as well. Okay, guys, that's the end of our session. Hope you guys enjoyed. Like I said, you'll get the recordings of tonight's session and the pre-recording tomorrow. If you've got any other questions, please email me directly or you can get in contact with SLO. I'll see you guys next week.
Thank you.
See you later. Bye.